It's the morning of day 2, and there's been a slight change in our plans. Yesterday, when we were setting up camp after arriving here on this island, camp setup was easy, but my back was killing me. I have a chronic sciatic pain from a herniated disc, and all of the portaging and the carrying of the packs, and especially lifting the canoe, setting the canoe down, lifting the packs out of the boat, setting the packs back into the boat, is very hard on my lower back because of all the bending. And there was a lot more than we expected because of the low water levels. So, slight change in our plans. Our plan had been to go into Rat Lake today, which is at the portage, which is at the very north end of this island lake. But it's 1,700 meters, and I don't know the condition of it. Water levels are low. It might be longer than that even because of the low water levels. So we thought it'd be prudent to give ourselves a rest day. So I'm taking a rest day today, and what we're going to do instead is we're going to not break camp, portage, and remake another camp at the other end. What we're going to do is we're going to maintain this camp, we had a nice leisurely morning, and now we're going to do a day paddle. And we're going to go to that portage and we're going to explore it. We're going to hike it first, a little reconnaissance to see what's in store for us tomorrow if we decide to do that. After we've walked that portage and assess whether or not it's a good idea to attempt it or not, we're going to go to another arm of Island Lake that has a portage into Partridge Lake, and we're going to walk that one and explore that one and just see if that's an option that's available to us. And then on the way back, we're going to do a bit of fishing. We brought our fishing gear with us and hopefully catch a bass or two so that my wife can enjoy a nice fresh fish supper. This is one of the nice things about Crownland camping. There's no schedule. You don't have to be on a particular lake or on a particular site on a particular day. I was just not feeling up to doing a breakdown of camp, a long, difficult portage potentially, and then making camp at the other end. Possibly having to make a bush camp because we don't know if there's an established site there or not. I just wasn't feeling up to it. But
we don't even know if there's a camp there, a usable campsite at all.
Right,
we might have to go further.
It might not be a suitable place for making camp at all there, which would necessitate another portage into the next lake in the hopes that there's a campsite there or a suitable place to make a bush camp. So that's one of the nice things about Crownland camping is you're on your own schedule. You come and go as you please. So we can stay here indefinitely, well up to 21 days legally. So we're just going to make today a rest day, make it a reconnaissance mission, do a little bit of fishing, give my back some time to recover, and on the basis of what we discovered today, we'll make up our minds about what we want to do tomorrow, depending on how I feel. That's just one of the big advantages of Crownland camping. It's one of the reasons why we do it. Okay, time to get going. The wind has picked up, but it was fortunate. We had a tailwind that carried us along this arm on the north end of Island Lake, and we were looking for the portage. As I said before, there's no portage signs, and this is what the portage trail looks like. It's really just a somewhat overgrown footpath. Doesn't look like much, but it's clear. There's no trees in the way, so it should be easy going. So we're just going to walk it, go to Rat Lake, and see what it looks like at that end. Seeing as we're walking it first, I want to clear the obstacles away as much as possible so I don't get hung up when I have a canoe over my head. Looks great. Not too hilly yet. Get away, you bird! fishing line, hang on.
Lovely.
Thanks, anglers, whoever you are, who left this booby trap of fishing line. Holy smokes, there's a lot of it. Well, this is one of the worst things you can leave around, is tangles of fishing line in the bush. It's really horrible for wildlife. They get caught in it, they either get badly trapped and can't escape, or they end up sawing through their limbs on it with this stuff, injuring themselves in order to get away. So we'll pack that out. Right over here, the trail changes from mixed deciduous and conifers forest to open rocky areas. So the trail is now marked with rock cairns. Just piles of rock that lead the way and help you navigate through these open areas until you can recognize a clear path again through the woods. There's the next one. Well, we've made it to Rat Lake. The portage is nice and clear, it's discernible, it's well blazed. There are places where there are flagging tape, there's rock cairns like this. It's fairly well maintained. The problem is it's too long for me. So I'm not going to lie, I'm quite disappointed. My wife and I are both disappointed, but presently with my lower back injury, there's no way I can do this portage, carry that heavy pack, carry that canoe all this way. The difficulty is, or the concern is, that I could very, very easily aggravate this herniated disc. I could tell that that's what was happening yesterday with all the beaver dam liftovers and portages. A portage of this length with sort of the gains and decreases in elevation is really risky. If I were to slip and fall or bump into a limb or something like that, I could be really screwed. In fact, I could be stuck out here. And I don't want to have to call for an air rescue. So we have to scrub this mission. This is not going to happen, not this year. Hopefully next year my back will be better and we can try it again. But for this year, no Rat Lake, and that means we're not going to be able to get into the lake system to the north. So now we have to come up with something else that we can do on Island Lake. Now, it has to be said, Island Lake is a huge lake, and there are shorter portages into the satellite lakes around it. So we just have to figure out exactly where we want to go and what we're going to do. But we'll play that by ear. Okay, gotta walk back. So we're done the portage from Rat back to Island Lake. And while we had originally intended to check out the portage and walk the portage into Partridge Lake, the wind has been picking up steadily. And we're kind of in a sheltered little inlet or finger of water here, so the wind's not bad, but I can see way down there that there's whitecaps. So the wind is coming out of the south, and we have to head south all the way. So we are, what's in store for us is a long paddle into a headwind with whitecaps. So we don't want to delay any longer in case the wind gets any worse, nor do we want to tire ourselves out excessively, so we're going to just head straight back to camp and make it a slightly shorter day than we had anticipated. Off we go. We are back at camp, and we took a bath just to get the day's sweat and grime off of us. After that we had a cup of tea, or a cup of coffee rather, and now we're enjoying a little bit of single malt scotch, and we were talking about today's events and what we're planning for the future. We were quite disappointed about the fact that we could not get into that other lake system to the north of Island Lake. We've been planning this for a while. We really want to do this. Well, we've decided to write it off for this season. The canoeing season is drawing to a close. There is not much more paddling to be done in this area. So we resolved that we would make that a goal for next year. And hopefully come next spring and summer I will be fit. So this is our white whale. This is our goal. I want to be able to do this next season. So does my wife. So we're both going to get into shape. So what are we going to do with the rest of this trip? Because that was our goal, and that has been foiled. It would just be imprudent of me to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore a lake that we've never camped on. Just one portage away, I think it's about 800 meters or so. There is a lake called Wolf Lake, just one lake away from the one we're on here on Island Lake. So it's a short paddle away, and it's a reasonably short portage, 800 meters, into Wolf Lake. We've visited that lake once before, just on a day trip while we were in this area, but we've never camped on it. And so apparently there's some campsites on it, or if there aren't any, we'll make a bush site. I think there are campsites. Are there campsites on it?
Yes.
Yes, there are. Okay. So we'll see what's available, and we'll make camp there, and we'll spend a few days there, and then we'll see what we can do from there. We know that there are portages into some further lakes from there, so it's not a dead end. There's options available to us to explore from there. So that's the plan for tomorrow, and that's the plan for the coming year. We have a new goal for next year.
Woohoo!
Try to get into Rat Lake and the lake system beyond. So Quest for the Rat is on for next year.
We love quests.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This morning we had a nice leisurely cup of coffee while we broke camp. Struck the tent, took down the tarp, packed everything up, made sure that we didn't leave anything behind, left the campsite cleaner than when we found it. And now we're just doing a nice early morning paddle on flat water across Island Lake from the little island site we were on to the portage into
Wolf.
Wolf Lake.
Yeah, it's just a very short paddle.
Yeah, it's a short paddle, and it's about an 800-meter portage. Is that correct?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So that should be easy. The difficulty that we're confronting today is rain is in the forecast. We know that there's supposed to be a huge rain in a couple of days, but the forecast has changed. It looks like there's going to be a few days of rain ahead of us and some rain later this morning. So we want to be able to get over to Wolf, scout it out, find out the best place to make camp. We're probably going to stay there for a few days, 2-3 days, and explore from there, just do a little bit of base camping there. We want to make sure that we have a site that you can really batten down the hatches for a heavy rain. So that means a spot that has a high and dry place for your tent, a good sheltered place that's not going to be windswept if it gets stormy for your tarp, and where you can make a nice big fire ring under the tarp that will create a warming fire. We are really in the habit of making very small fires. Our fire rings, our fire pits are really, really small, just big enough to cook on. But at these temperatures, when it's really, really damp and rainy, you've got to make sure that you have a fire pit big enough to warm you. So we want to make sure that we find a site that's suitable for all of that. We've arrived at the portage to Wolf Lake, and we just walked it. My wife carried the paddles and the PFDs and odds and ends, and I carried the heavier pack and dropped it off at the far end. I always like to walk a portage with a pack rather than with the canoe if it's an unfamiliar portage. Now, I've walked this once before, like 12, 13 years ago, but I don't remember what it was like, what condition it was in, and the path it took, so I didn't want to walk it with the canoe and then get lost. And it turned out that that was a prudent move, because while this is a very well-worn portage, it's quite clear, it forks off in a number of different ways. There's a number of different branches, and it's not blazed or marked very well. There's some old axe blazes in the trees that you have to look for, and in one place there's a rock cairn. And it's also very hilly, up and down and so forth. So I was happy that I wasn't carrying the canoe while trying to figure out, am I on the right fork here, or did I take the wrong branch? But it's about 800. I shouldn't have any difficulty getting the canoe across today. My back feels much better today. So we're in business. So one more pack and a canoe to go, and we'll be at Wolf Lake. So the portage into Wolf Lake is behind us. It was everything I expected it to be. It was hilly, and the footing was tricky in places. What we didn't expect was the mosquitoes. Holy cow, there was a lot of mosquitoes on that portage, especially at the put-in at the very, very end. But we're underway now. Wolf Lake is a really pretty lake. It's kind of a long, thin lake, but it's beautiful. There are apparently at least 3 established campsites on this lake, and because we're anticipating being here for a few days during some rain, I want to find something that is on the north shore. I want to get some southern exposure, maybe some eastern exposure, because when it rains, everything gets soaked and stays soaked for a long time, unless you get a lot of sun. So I'm looking for something that's got southern exposure so that we'll get as much sun as soon as possible once the rain stops. And the weather forecast is not quite what we expected. We thought by now we might be paddling in rain or portaging in rain, but it's smeary, overcast skies, scattered clouds at times, but it doesn't look or feel like there's any rain impending, so we might be missing that system. So we might have a nice warm day that's rain-free.
Did you say we were looking for southern exposure? That's the North Shore, isn't it?
Yeah, southern exposure. The North Shore is exposed to the sun that's in the south.
Ah, okay.
So that's what we want, yeah. So if that's not clear to anybody, yes. I'm looking for a site along the North Shore, if possible, that is exposed to the sun. Oh, it's raining. I just felt a few drops.
Not much.
No.
I don't feel anything.
No.
All right.
All right, we're good. Off we go. So Wolf Lake is really pretty. It opens up, it widens out at the far end, and there's a number of small islands on it. Still haven't found
Look at that.
the established campsites. Oh, look at that, ducks.
Yeah.
Seem to have flushed out some ducks.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's nice about this is that it's so much like camping in a provincial park. There's established sites, there's established portage routes, right? This is not some obscure area that's hard to find that we discovered on our own using the Crown Land Policy Atlas. This is a well-established canoe route. So it very much has the look and feel of camping in a provincial park, and it has all of the ease because there is a portage from this place to that place. There's campsites that are established. They're not designated as campsites by anyone, but they are established. And so you don't have to worry about making a bush camp and stuff like that if you don't feel up to it, or you've never done it before, or you're pressed for time or something like that because you've got a late start in the day. But what's nice about it is because there's no signs, you got to hunt for them. You've got to paddle around the coastlines and find the entrances to the portages. You've got to paddle along the coast and find and discover where the campsites are and choose which ones are best. Right? Nothing is a sign, you get to choose. And another nice thing is, here we are mid to late September. Beautiful, beautiful week. It was forecast for a while. If this was a provincial park, there would be people here. There's nobody here. We haven't seen a soul. There's just nobody around. Nobody camping, no other canoes on Island Lake, and that's a really big lake. Certainly nothing here. We didn't expect to find anybody here, and I'd be astonished if we did see anybody else on this trip. And this is really nice. Even though it's a beautiful weekend, or week rather, in the end of September, near the end of peak canoeing season, we have this all to ourselves. It's magnificent.
Wolf Lake. Really a beautiful place.
After about an hour of paddling, we spotted a fire ring on a high. This site had a view to the east, south, and west. After looking about the site and deciding where things would go, we strung our tarp and we pitched our tent on a nice high local spot. Then we set about making supper, and then we enjoyed the sunset in the evening. That night, a pack of coyotes called out across the lake.